and only 4% on commercial debt. We moved to a point where 31% in 2020, 31% of our debt was commercial debt. Averaging interest rate is 8 to 9%. That is not sustainable for an economy. It is now coming down, it is 23%. My focus is to have commercial debt at no more than 5% of our debt portfolio, external debt portfolio, and have 75% of our debt under multilateral debt and only 20% or thereabout on bilateral debts. With that, you can clearly reduce the cost of debt. But something else about debt is, Mr. Speaker, and sample this, honorable members, our debt portfolio is 50-50, almost, external, domestic. Yet interest payable per year on external debt is 260 billion, on domestic debt is 700 and almost 50 billion. 3 times we are over-borrowing domestically. And we have raised the interest rates of borrowing domestically. I know I'm one of the people, if you look at my wealth declaration, I have a government bond I've bought of 13 million, and I'm getting almost 16% returns. That is unsustainable. We must have a conversation, Mr. Speaker, and not to scare anyone. We must have a conversation with banks. We are not going to control interest rates.
We want you to give the country hope.
Yes.
You are doing so.
Yeah. We are not, I'm not going to advocate for interest rates control, as in setting the rates to be charged. It had very disastrous result when we attempted that, remember, through a legislation. But banks promised us, Mr. Speaker, banks promised us that if we remove the rate caps, they would loan even more to the private sector. Presently, that is not the case. In fact, bank executives sometimes can just sit and take teas and do nothing, but still make money for shareholders by buying government bonds and government bills. We must move away from that. Actually, we have crowded out private sector. You can see the youth is up in arms. They have no jobs because the private sector is not borrowing money from the
it's not lending.
The private sector is not borrowing money
from banks, yes,
to invest. And so we can create jobs.
Yes.
I know that one of the reasons why we have been raising the interest rate is to control inflation. Inflation has reasonably been controlled now at 4.6%. We must also be alive to the fact that we must balance the two. There must be a net-off effect so that we also grow our economy. Thank you. Finally, there was the issue of what do we do about the poor and the pending bills. Pending bills is a serious matter, Mr. Speaker. I think it is something that we must agree on. I know we are moving as a country to accrual basis. As an accountant, I know with the accrual basis of accounting, then we will not be talking about pending bills because there will be no cutoff. Any bill that comes will automatically move to the next financial year and pay it. But these pending bills, a lot of them are also fictitious. I know there is a committee in place, and I don't want to criticize that committee. I know it is headed by the former Auditor General, Edward Ouko. But, Mr. Speaker, I ask myself this question. The pending bills that I'm told have been submitted to that committee, or before that committee, is upwards of 663 billion claims. And there are a total of 114,000